pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to convene as the Walworth County Planning and Zoning Board. Is there any old business? Any new business? Okay, got a motion on the floor. I need a second.
I'll second.
Got a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passed. I'd like to convene as the Walworth County Board of Zoning Adjustment. I guess here we are, public hearing for the proposed conditional use permit.
Got a you or Jeremy getting talker?
Okay, I guess to start this off, I guess the first one would be Denise. That's all right.
I guess I don't know exactly what their plan is, altogether myself, so I don't know if I should now or defer.
Well, unless, Jeremy, do you guys want to speak a little bit first so that everybody is...
Thank you for having us. I'm Kerwin Miller. I've been here before. We are the people who want to bring the cheese dairy to Bowdle area. And we have a site map up here on the screen and a larger print over there on the table in case anybody wants to review it. I think you folks have already taken a look at that. For some of those that have not, it's there. A little bit about what we're trying to do, if you haven't already read it in the newspapers. This would be a 2,400 head Jersey dairy that we're milking. And we're not trucking milk, we're going to make cheese right there on site. The business plan is for about 100 employees. Probably won't start out with quite that many, and probably end up with about 110 when we're all done. There will be a number of people probably that come to work at the site that will have younger children, and we are willing to go ahead and work around those schedules, and our business plan includes a daycare for that reason out there. And that would be just strictly for our employees. Citibank's been doing it for many years, and it's worked out very well for them, and I think that will be something that will be very welcome with our particular employees. Other than that, we have a number of acres that are required to feed the cows, and I will turn that over to Steve Kaiser, who's helping us design the dairy and put the cow numbers together. And we kind of give you an idea about how many acres we need, how much corn silage will be required, ear corn and things like that. Other than that, I think that's about all I really need to mention at this point in time, because we've been in the newspaper quite a bit already, and we've been here before. So unless you folks have any more additional questions on that, we have, instead of 7 or 8 milk trucks a day, by making cheese out there, which is very important that we know about the traffic out there, we're probably looking at only 3 or 4 cheese trucks a month. So there's not a lot of wear and tear on the roads with the milk trucks coming in every day. It's too far to haul milk anyway from this area. That's another reason why we're very happy with this area, because we're not trucking milk. The other nice thing about it is that the road that we're looking at would be 321st Avenue, I believe. Is it Avenue or Street? It's Avenue, and Norbert's here, he lives on that road. The only thing that we would like to work out, with, if possible, with the county is to maybe widen that road a bit and maybe make the base a little bit stronger. Again, we're not dealing with a lot of heavy traffic on there, but we will have feed trucks coming in, and we will be bringing in feed for the cows from the neighboring fields. So as far as a lot of traffic between there, which is 4 miles off of Highway 12 to the south, there'll be very, very little milk truck traffic on there, like zero. But we will have some cheese trucks going on it. I think other than that, we are negotiating with, trying to find out where we're going to get our power from. We need 3-phase out there, and there isn't any out there, so that'll be a major accomplishment and a requirement for us to come. Other than that, we had 2 setbacks that we had to have signed because they're within 2 miles from the site. Norbert was one, and Josh is not here that I can see, and they've agreed to go ahead and let us come in there. We are spending over $1 million to reduce the odor. The technology is very similar to what the Aberdeen packing plant has on their wastewater lagoons. Dan DeHaan is one of our engineers. He's here today. He's also the engineer for the Aberdeen beef plant, and he can tell you that when you drive out to those lagoons, and for those of you that have been by there, there's very, very little odor. And that is all part of our design to try and be a good neighbor. So again, I don't know that we're worried too much about odor because we've already taken measures to reduce that. And when you do that, there's less flies and everything else that goes along with handling the waste properly. Our grand design is to break the nutrients down enough in the lagoons to put out through a center pivot. So we're not talking about a lot of land application, only just-in-time fertigation, if you want to call it that, with the nutrients from the lagoons. So that we're not going to be land applying on a regular basis, like 3 or 4 days in a row where you normally would see a dairy site or a pig site injecting manure into the soil. That's not part of the plan. We're putting it out like water through the pivots. And with very little odor on there, you probably never even know when you're doing it. Other than that, I think that's pretty much a good overview of what we're doing there. There'll be about 7,000 head when we're done with the young stock there. We'll have 2,880 in the milking herd, about that many heifer replacements, and then we'll be raising the dairy calves out there to become future mothers. And for the boy calves, we will be keeping them back and raising them separately in a beef barn, which will eventually be taken over to the other. So with that said, I think I'll just turn this over maybe to Steve. Did you get a chance to sign that sheet? Okay.
Go ahead. Okay.
And you can explain pretty much the acres that we're going to need and some of the feed, because I think that's important for some of the farmers that are in the room here. With that, I'll introduce Steve Kaiser. Thank you.
I'll introduce myself a little more. I dairied for 25 years, all the way from milking cows by hand, which I'm sure a couple of you guys in this room have done before, to milking 1,500 cows on a dairy right close to Lincoln, Nebraska, which is the capital city of Nebraska. And so I know all about having to be a good neighbor and controlling odor and dust and all those kind of things. My role in this dairy is going to be, number one, I'm designing it because right now I'm working for an equipment company, a milking equipment company, and we also build milking facilities. So I'm heavily involved in the design. I will be there every day during the building process, and then afterwards I'll be the manager of the dairy part. I don't know anything about cheese, so I won't be involved in that part. But anyway, we did kind of a quick calculation on the number of acres we would need to feed the animals on this dairy. Corn silage, we're going to need 25,000 tons, and that will At 16 ton an acre, that'll be about 1,600 acres. So we're planning on using corn ear leach in the ration, and that will take about 15,000 ton, and that would be about 3,700 acres. And then alfalfa haylage, this far north, you know, I'm down south where we get 6 cuttings, and obviously you only get 3 here, up here. So that would be about 8,200 ton and would take approximately 2,400 acres. And then we'd also need corn grain, obviously, and that'd be about 112,000 bushel. So that would be around 900 acres, taking your county average. So the total number of acres we would need to feed the cows would be about 8,600 acres. Now, Kerwin didn't mention this, but we're going to be a non-GMO dairy. All the feed has to be non-GMO. So no Roundup Ready, no Liberty Link, none of that. So we're going back old school. So just to let you know, we're not going to buy it from the elevator. We're not going to buy it from any farmer. He's got to have non-GMO. So just to let you know, that's part of the game plan for the cheese. People on the coast pay more for non-GMO and kosher. And so that's the market we're trying to hit. So the beef will also be kosher. All the cow beef, all the baby, all the steer beef too. So I guess that's all I have. I don't know. So I will be the face. I'll be the guy you come chew out. I'll be the guy that will answer all your concerns. So. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Doug.
I guess they mentioned that cheese is not going to take much traffic on the road, but he did mention feed. And I just roughly figured 7,000 head, 50 pounds a day. That's 350,000 pounds of feed a day. I figured 50,000, it comes to like 2,600 loads of feed going down the road to the dairy. I don't know if I'm right or wrong on that, but I guess that's how I kind of figured. And I mean, to me, that's a lot more traffic than a cheese drum. And I do have a quarter right there that they're definitely going to have to go by most of the time. And I'm worried about the dust on that. I guess if you guys are going oil or something, then that's a problem. But the dust is definitely going to be a problem because most of this is going to be right during growing season. When the trucks are going to be going, it's going to be from probably 1st of June until harvest time or whatever. And so I guess that's my main problem, and I don't think you guys have anything to do with the drainage deal at all. That'd be the state or whatever, because I do have a creek that comes from the north that goes down through there. And I guess you put that many cattle or that much black dirt, you get 5 inches of rain. I don't know what the outcome would come, or, you know, whichever. I guess that's basically my couple of things, and then I guess everybody else, that's about all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Kenzie Downs.
The only thing I have to say is I do believe you guys applied for the grant to get the sales tax money back. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you get it, or do you not know yet? Do you know, or?
Is Spencer in here?
The application's in, but they have not approved it.
I just want to make sure that you guys try to make sure that that money comes back towards our road, because this is going to add a lot of pressure, and it should be a little wider, and it should be, you know, I mean, it works just fine for what we're doing right now, but I'd like to see it come back our way, you know, because we're going to, you know, hopefully everybody over that benefits from this. I really hope the communities, everybody, I want everybody to benefit from it. But, you know, we got to make sure that the road stays fairly safe for everybody to travel as well. And that'd be the only thing I'd have to say. I don't really want it oil by any stretch of the imagination, but I just want it wide enough to where, and, you know, the base, you know, there's some soft spots in it and stuff like that that need to be addressed. And if we're going to start carrying a lot of weight on it, we're going to need you know, a little help in that department. But that would be the only thing. And I do believe that sales tax return is gonna be a pretty substantial amount of money for you guys. And the dairy itself is gonna be a substantial amount of money for our school district and Bowden community. If you think about 100 employees, if we only get 30% of them, I think it's a big windfall for us. You know, and 30% of them could end up in Bowden, and 30% of them could end up over here. You know, that could just actually kind of help the school stay open, or a grocery store, or a gas station, you know. I think it's a win for everybody. I really do. It's just we want to make sure that everything kind of goes along well. That's all I have to say.
Yes, thank you. Yes, sir.
One quick question for the two of you. There's different products out there, like stabilizers and stuff to put in the roads. I know we've talked to Gary about it already, about seeing what we can do with that. And one of the benefits, it's not designed for dust control, but what it does is it absorbs any of the moisture out of the air and tightens all the binders and stuff to make it a more stable road. So it's designed to take the washboards out. Would you be happy with just that in the road, or?
I would think that, I don't personally like that stuff, that magnesium chloride, whatever it is. I'm not.
That's one of them.
Yeah, I'm not exactly tickled with that stuff, but if a guy was to, you know, kind of redo the shoulders and regrade that road, you know, maybe throwing down a geomat would actually be a better alternative. You know, some sort of fabric to keep the gravel separated from the subsoil. You know, like they do, you know, like I know the ethanol plants and stuff like that, when they built them, they put that in, and then it just kind of keeps your topsoil or your gravel mixing into your black dirt, and then it doesn't go away as fast. But that's one thing I'd rather see versus that dust control fluid or whatever, because that stuff is.
It's not really designed for dust control. It's
I know it, but you know, it
designed more
depends
for
on which one they put on. Some of that stuff, when you get it on your truck in a rainstorm, it's like a bear cat to wash off. And I drive on that road way too much for that. I don't really much care for that kind of stuff. I really don't like it anyway. But
What would your opinion be on that?
Well, I mean, I guess how often do you have to spray it? Who does it? You know, I guess I'm not up on that as far as that goes, you know. I guess I've heard of it some, but I don't know what it does to the road, if it, you know, is it bind up or, like you said, or make it slimy or kind of, or whatever. I
It
don't know.
definitely makes it harder.
it makes it harder.
Which would make it a little slippery and a little bit of rain or.
I wouldn't say it makes it slippery, but
No, because it holds the binder in, so you got more gravel on top there to hold
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm
in
not-
place.
Well, versed in it at all, I haven't been around it or whatever.
But I know that we've talked to Gary, our highway superintendent, about it, and he's checking out some different options on it now to kind of see where we're at on it.
that stuff's about $1 a gallon. You gotta reapply that just about every year, I do believe. That's correct.
About every year.
Yeah, it's about every year. I don't know how many gallons it would take to do 4 miles.
Would they say $7,000 a mile or something like that?
That's something about right.
Gary, you got any comment on that, or not really?
Was Gary here? I didn't see Gary here. He's even got his hat off. And he's even got his hat off. I should be able to see him.
I'm not sure how this process is gonna play out, but I have made a couple of contacts with consulting engineers to come in and give us a preliminary survey. We need to start with what the request is, asphalt surfacing. We need to determine gravel depth. We need to determine whether we can fit any road improvements into a 66-foot right-of-way. We need to at least consider circulating easements for widening roads. Anytime you go up, you want to keep the inslope reasonably flat. If you go up, you have to go out. Limited research to this point. The web water, I think, does exist on the west side of the road, a 2-inch plastic line. And if we have to go out and we have to impact the water line, that means rebury. And depending on where you guys are at on your end of this thing, all I need is the word to bring a consultant in to do a preliminary study and put a cost estimate together. I'm just kind of waiting, so.
There's fiber optics in the east ditch too. Just to add a little bit more fun to it.
From our visit out there, the road,
Doesn't go past your place, Scott? How does it get down to the Boner place? Okay, could be.
Follows the road.
Alright. Well, it's only 2 miles of fiber optics. So. But I don't know, you know, that is only a 66-foot right of way though. You're right. I don't know what a guy's gonna do. I didn't know if a guy could fill the ditch in a little bit, because it is really rather steep.
from our visit down there was kind of determined that the grade of the road and elevation isn't that bad, especially if we're gonna raise it. It gets it up from the surroundings.
Sure.
But it's the width that you have to have material to fill the end slopes in to get width. What do we say, 32 foot of base width if we're gonna put 12 inches of gravel on top? So we need 32 foot of road surface on the dirt work side to put 12 inches of gravel on top. So this is all kind of preliminary stuff. In the past, if there was REA poles, overhead transmission lines, the utility companies worked with us to the effect that if we got an additional gravel number in, say, 10, 15 feet of right of way, they have diligently moved their poles out to the right of way line. So it's all at a cost. Like I said, not knowing where we're at in this thing, but there's going to be some extensive footwork to be done in advance of this. So.
Chance Thomas?
Yeah, you can skip.
Norbert?
All I have to say is, I think this is a good opportunity for the whole area to benefit. I'm sure there are going to be downfalls or things that aren't going to work like we want them to, but like Tim said, if we get 100 people into the area, if we get 8,600 acres of production bought up close by, it's got to be a win. There will be some negatives, I know this, but I'm hoping the positives will outweigh the negatives.
Thank you. Melissa?
My concern is what you're expecting for the farmer to invest in getting this going, like pivots, because you know we had a phenomenal 19 year for moisture. 9 times out of 10, we don't have that. So pivots are gonna have to get put in. You know, is there gonna be some special financing or something that you can help your farmers get these pivots put in so you can get this feed?
I guess just me, I guess that's never thought about that, I guess, we ever said anything like that. Eric?
I'm good, skip. Yeah.
Not sure what that other name is under Eric.
If it's the last one, it was one.
The last one was myself, I think. Printed?
Can't read it.
No, looks like it might start with a C or an A. Probably Austin.
No, it's on the
Oh,
Austin's gift. Austin
Skip?
Thomas?
what?
Was it Austin Thomas?
I bet that's it, yeah.
Okay, he skipped.
Maurice?
I don't have anything to say, it's just, when they come to us about that there, and I just thought it was gonna be a good deal for the whole city, our surrounding area. It's gonna be good for everybody. There's gonna be some hard deals that come by or whatever, or people that are complaining, but they're really doing a good job of trying to keep you know, bring people in and the steam smell down, and they're gonna bring in some people, and they're not gonna just bring any trash in. And I think for the farmers that are adjacent to that, it's gotta be a plus for all of us. So as far as the road, I don't know, is there any state money that we can get, or I heard about that, we can get some state funding to help with that road? Or, I mean,
I don't know if you guys can get a
did we
DOT
put-
grant.
Huh?
I don't know if they can get a DOT grant or if any of that stuff would apply. You could look into it, I guess.
Well, I know we're looking into things, but like I said, everything is going rather faster at the moment.
Right.
As far as other trucks coming in from other directions, well, we got I mean, there's trucks coming for silage or whatever, you know, just farmers are just gonna have to help keep the roads up and, or whatever, you know, or county or whatever. I mean, it just, we're gonna make it work. That's my feeling.
No doubt it's gonna be a little change, but
Yeah. So,
yes.
I mean, I can address the feed truck deal. The only outside feed we're gonna have to buy is canola meal. So that's the only, to me, we're not making any more land. I mean, those trucks gotta haul the produce off of that land somewhere. So we're not making any more land, so, yeah, it's all coming to that spot. But it's all going to AgTerra or wherever now. So we're not increasing the traffic. The only traffic we're increasing is a load of canola meal every other week and 3 truckloads a month of cheese. That's only traffic we're increasing. So that's kind of what all I have to say.
Yeah.
I'll skip. Starts with a J.
That might have been me.
Okay.
I got a lot to say. One other thing on that dust deal, you know, figuring the loads of feed coming in there. If you listen to Steve, you know, a majority of that feed is silage, yearlage, grain corn. At that time of the year, the crops are done growing. Really, the only thing that's going to be going by there for feed trucks during the growing season would be like your alfalfa haylage, or if we decide to chop some shale grains or something, but that's a small part of the tonnage that we were discussing. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay, thank you. Danielle? Daniel?
Yes. Yeah, I'm not gonna speak much. I think Nate probably talked last time, my business partner. He might went over a bunch of it. We're gonna have to meet all South Dakota DNR requirements. And that's for drainage, that's from environmental pieces, and geology. It's all things that are part of the process, but we're trying to get our conditional use permit ahead of going back to the state for that. But we've done a lot of these things. We've been in this business for a long time. Me for about 30 years. I'm originally from Platte, and we are doing the engineering work for the people. And that's what he was talking about as far as the aeration that we're doing on our ponds before we discharge in the city for that. And as far as taking the meat, some of that's the white, what we call our white cattle, as far as taking cow cows or taking even beef cows, beef builders, what you're probably going to produce, and bring into play. So. Any questions, Mary?
I was just on this conditional use permit. Is there, do we have a copy of the conditional use permit? Is that something that's, I mean,
That's the application.
This is the application.
Right. Now, you typically, if you have an attorney here, your state's attorney, he can guide you on that, but it's, you would make it the condition that we have to have the South Dakota DNR permit. And the application will come to you in addition to going to the state. Once we submit a copy to you as long as it's 7-1 period.
So the approval process is basically just getting the application approved so we can actually start the process. Has nothing to do with what's in that conditional permit.
It's what you decide to put in
Put in
the
that.
condition. I mean, you write conditions, and one condition would be that you have to require it to have approval from South Dakota to make sure the construction permit's approved along with the nutrient management. That's the way everybody uses, everything's usually on a condition tied into the statement.
Greg, is everything in there?
No, you guys are gonna wanna decide to add some additional insurances, like road insurance, maintenance, stuff like that, so you don't have to think about.
None of that has been,
Well, you guys decide to, what you're gonna attach.
Yeah, like road haul agreements, that's usually typically in these bigger operations, that's very common. An agreement is made.
But that load haul agreement is just for during the construction, usually.
Oh, it's not necessarily. I think it's a long-term road haul agreement. It's whatever either the township or the county comes up with as far as who helps maintain it, clean the snow out, etc. It varies by operation, it varies by county and township.
so like if we wanted to put weight limit requirements on there, that could be part of the conditional use.
Correct. I mean, I'm going
Yeah,
to go back to your.
You're gonna wanna know who's, the application is for Maurice, but is he gonna transfer that? Who's he gonna transfer it to? And what, you know, what's their plans with that? Yeah, with an owner's name on it.
Well, I think the reason it's on his name is because, you know, they're not gonna acquire the land if we don't get the permit. So he's the landowner, so it has to start with him and then
Right.
get transferred.
Yeah, but who's he gonna transfer it to?
It's not transferable in just Maurice's name. If we have an owner's name and signature, then the conditional use permit is transferable.
What was that?
The conditional use permit is not transferable unless we have, there's a place on it for owner's name and signature. And it's not transferable unless we have that. Right now, it's only in Maurice's name.
Right, but you won't get the owner's name until the ground actually changes purchase, until it's purchased. So that, at that point, the conditional use permit is transferable because it's in Maurice's name and it's attached to the deed. So then it's transferable with the deed. At least that's the way it's always worked before.
We'll have to
That's
check.
kind of how it works, and that works with South Dakota DNR.
Yeah.
We're doing one right now with Bowers over, Bowers and Mine. I don't know if you know who they are.
In line.
Yeah, but somebody bought that, a different company bought that, and we're trying to.
Yeah, because if the conditional use don't transfer with the property, the property could be worthless.
Right, it's got to transfer.
Got it.
It's just like any easements, they transfer.
But the operation, what's ever in the request has got to be the same. Once you change that, then it might require an additional conditional use permit. If it's follows the same what was requested,
Right.
then you're all right.
Change the game.
If you change, yeah, if you change that, and same thing with state, then you'd have to go back and get a new permit if it was outside the original.
I guess that's one question, not one question, many questions we'd ask our state's attorney, but he's not here today,
Okay.
as you can see.
Right.
Because I guess to me, that's one of the big questions. Does everything transfer? I mean, when it goes out of Maurice's name, will everything, say we change in there?
From the state
Condition.
standpoint, it will, because there's a special form we just sign. Do that. And we can actually put, if we had the name owner of the company, we could actually put that as part of the permit for the application.
So the conditional use permit, you understand, goes with the land.
That's my understanding, yes.
So is the conditional use permit filed against that legal description? So
Let me
how
see
does
if I
it
can help
transfer?
on that. When we looked at the zoning rules, There is in the concentrated, the CAFO section, which I think is 530, something like that. The conditional use permit, once approved by the county, attaches to the land. And if that land is sold, that conditional use permit gets transferred. That request has to be made within 60 days from the purchase of the property, if I'm correct. Your state's attorney's not here, but I'm almost sure that that's the way this works. The new owner, which would be our group, has to abide by the same rules that the conditional permit was issued on. And if they don't, then they're out of compliance, and then all kinds of things can happen. So there is a transfer period that is allowable in 60 days. But it has to be adhered to the same conditional use regulations that were issued originally. There may be a step or a process of paperwork involved with the county in getting that done. But that's when the new owner is to disclose the address, the registered agent for the group. And the nice thing about it is that they have to abide by the same rules that the county zoning board sets forth in that conditional use permit originally. Now, if I'm wrong on that, I would stand correctly, but that's the way we've interpreted it.
Yeah, it would be the same.
And that would work the same way with the state DNR permit as well. Any other questions?
Has an ECOG looked at the conditional use permit that you know of?
We met with them, Jeremy, when did we meet with them? 2 weeks ago? There is a DOT grant that can be available. There's another one, some kind of improvement, road improvement grant. And that would be fairly close to about $1 million. The county has to initiate that and submit that to the state. And we'd work with you however we would need to on that.
That's usually a cost share, like 50%.
Between the county and the state. And that's negotiated
50 or
on a local
60,
level.
80. Yeah, that's the DOT, Department of Transportation.
Right. But we have met with them. They are aware of the project.
These agreements will have to be made before that conditional use permit is approved, correct? I mean, if you want to put something on there for roads or anything else, I think you have to do that before you approve the conditional use. Because you're adding on.
That's part of the term.
That's what the conditions are.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are listed as conditions of the permit.
Yes, Doug.
So when these conditions go on, does that affect everybody or just the dairy? I mean, do other farmers have to abide by the same rules?
That'll just be for the permit holder.
I mean, anybody else can haul heavier loads than what the dairy does or whatever.
It's the only restrictions that we would have. It wouldn't, from what I understand, it doesn't apply to you.
Yeah, unless the county would post a sign, then they would, but if it's in the conditional use permit for us, then we're the only ones that have to buy.
That's correct. Good question.
Yes, Becky.
Did Eric contact you, or Marion, or Gary? Eric Singer? He called and I told him he needed to speak with you. And he said he was going to call you regarding grants.
I know Greg's been in close contact with Eric almost every day.
And we just discussed what we're discussing now,
Yeah.
about the conditions. You did mention something about a grant.
I think truthfully, that's the biggest thing we got right now is to worry about is the road. And what we're gonna do to the road, and that's pretty much putting it right, Gary.
Appropriating money for it, it's beginning a new budget year, so there's nothing in the budget for engineering surveys or things like that for the project. Yeah, we've got a lot of legwork to do, so.
Gary, do you happen to have an idea what it would cost for the survey, to get a survey done?
No, and I wouldn't be comfortable giving a number, but yeah, I'm not comfortable giving a preliminary survey number.
Could you find that out for us?
Sure. Because that's relative to what criteria is it, will it be reconstructed at? The engineers need to know this, based on proposed traffic counts, all these kind of factors, the engineering firm needs to know about that. willingness from the local landowners to allow for permanent easement for additional right-of-way, things like that. So it shouldn't hold it off, but we need a number to start with, based on 3 inches of asphalt, whatever the engineering design's calling for, so.
Yes, Mayor.
Wouldn't we be able to, in the conditional use permit though, basically state that the county would have nothing to do with this road until the facility is actually built or getting close to being built, before we would actually have to go in and do anything to this road?
Well, if I understood right, we have to already apply before anything is started with the roads, as far as I'm concerned. It's not how you took it, Gary.
Yeah.
We can't, all of a sudden, they start building the plant, and we decide to try to get money for that road. That's a little late. That is like way too late.
And you don't want both construction projects going on at the same time.
I'm just saying that
You
it
know,
has to
it
be
might
done
be a deal
first.
where they actually build the dairy and then you come by and make the road better after they're done building it. Because that might be exactly how it works out. Because even if you're gonna go for any of that grant, you're gonna be a year, 18 months out before you get any of that grant money.
Well, I guess that was my concern with the whole thing and the process, is not the fact that, I mean, like Gary said, we don't have anything in our budget for the highway department to put a bunch of dollars towards
Some of that
this.
surveying money, you can get thrown in with the grant too. You know, you don't wanna go out and spend a bunch of your money on surveys and then find out that you could have put that in with the construction project, you know? Because a lot of times, construction projects will have a staple on it for engineering costs. So you can, look at the project and then they'll pay for the survey that the state will, or it'll be a shared grant or however it is. The only thing I can say is, if I don't know how carried away a guy needs to get with the road, but, my trucks are I got hay movers, so I'm all 16 feet wide. And I guess one of my concerns is that I've got trucks coming in every day, going in and out of there every day. And then we've got shift change at the dairy. We've got, how many cars coming down the road, and all this other stuff. How many of them understand what I am and how wide I am. And, that road right now is probably, I don't know, a little over 20 feet wide, 25 feet wide maybe. So it's kind of and the ditches are so steep that, either one of us, if we get too close to the edge, we're going down the ditch, So that's where it needs to be just a little bit wider. As far as, he's right on the number of loads, all that stuff is there already. The silage is gonna add up a little bit more, I would imagine, you'll get more loads of silage, but that stuff's all gonna be coming in from past his place. It's gonna be coming in from the south. It's not all gonna come down from up north. It's gonna come from a 360-degree area. It's gonna come from, everywhere. So, it's not like it's all gonna go down 321st Avenue from the north. It's gonna go south and west and north a mile and west and north a mile and east and straight east, and it's gonna come from all over. Because they're talking 9,000 acres. I mean, that's a pretty big spot on the map. So, but that's where my problems lie is, I would assume that most of the people are gonna go north. It doesn't matter if they live in Selby or live in Bowell. Most of the people are gonna go north to get to the highway, and I'm more concerned when they're constructing or doing chopping or stuff like that. I can talk to Jared and Maurice. I can keep my trucks out of there for a while. I can do, we can get along. That's not really an issue. It's when we start getting, people that are not from the neighborhood in here and not knowing what's going on and what's all around. That's where my concerns start to lie. Because I can work with everybody else in this room. It's just the way it is.
Have, just something totally different, has anybody talked to any of the schools to see if there's any impact to the school districts or anything on what this would do to any of the schools?
No, I haven't. I talked to a couple of, faculty up there about it, but, until it's going up.
I
There's
mean,
really-
it could affect Hoven, Bowdle, Selby.
Yeah, it's gonna be huge for the local communities. I mean,
Are they
that's-
gonna be able to handle the, or is it just to give them a heads up to say, you know, taking a look at this, you foresee any problems with this?
Well, I think all the schools around here need kids to
Well, they do. Some of them have already combined so much that are they gonna have to start looking for teachers to expand back to where they used to be?
No,
Spencer.
there's like 6 kids in a class. If
Yeah.
a teacher can't handle 20 kids, they better go.
I know what you're saying,
I
but
can address that one just a little bit. On the education side of things, kids mean dollars now when it comes to state funding. You don't get money unless you have a child in the seat. So basically, any extra child that comes into that school is a financial benefit. The teacher thing, the teacher ratio, I believe what they try to keep under is 25 to 1, 25 kids to 1 teacher. That also deals with the funding formula, so on and so forth. And I don't know, you know, Bowdle's not in trouble, Hoven's not in trouble, and I don't think Selby's even close yet in terms of the 25 to 1 teacher ratio. But I know, you know, having served on the school board, when I was, and I can't speak for the school board at this point, but when I was a school board member, it wouldn't matter to me. I'll hire another teacher if I need to. That's the idea. Is, you know, we could grow facility-wise. You know, again, we're talking about Bowdle's current facility in its heyday. How many kids were there? 200, 300? Probably. They're down to, they're flirting with,
Yeah.
they're flirting with 100 right now. Selby did do a facility upgrade, but again, we're talking 200-300 kids normally. What they were, I don't know what they could probably withhold now. But Hoven, kind of about the same thing. You know, Hoven actually has had probably the most drastic decrease in kids when it comes to size.
I was just questioning if anybody had maybe giving them a heads up to, hey, something to take a look at, depending on if everything goes through or something that. Just throwing that out there.
I think the biggest shock load is gonna be to the housing. I think the school can handle it, the hospital, the bone line.
Well, there's no doubt that.
You know, all this stuff can pick up the extra. It'd just be the housing situation, like, tight. What's that?
Regarding the housing, and I'm glad that that's come up because I should have mentioned that before. We are going to be providing some housing on site, at least for inclement weather, and I guess we just went through a little bit of that. But we have talked to at Bowdle Economic Development. We haven't been to any of the other towns, but there are some opportunities. In particular, for extra infrastructure that hasn't been built yet, for us to possibly do long-term leases for our employees on it. I mean, there's a number of ways that the housing can be addressed, but that's always an issue with the amount of employees that we're going to have.
But part of it, we're gonna,
Some of that we will have just on site already. A lot of dairies are doing that, and we're not going to be any different. The dairy that runs every day. The cheese plant will run 6 days a week, and we just have to keep things going out there. So there will be some housing on site for us.
What kind of housing are you talking about? Are you talking like the oil fields?
That we've looked at some of those. The governor's houses are very attractive. There are some houses for rent in some of the small towns right now that could probably be fixed up to standards for our employees. I mean, there's a number of opportunities in some of these smaller towns now to get some of those abandoned places up and running again, or even erecting an apartment complex. We're open to discussion on that, and we'll be working with the local economic development in most of these smaller towns. We can't really do much without the permit, but once we know that that's taken care of, then obviously that's one of our first and foremost high priorities is where we're going to put our people.
our game plan is that employees that can afford to buy their own housing, we won't do anything with that. The ones that rent, we will pay the rent, we will pay the utilities, and that will come out of their check. That's our game plan. Any renting can be done is gonna be us doing it. So the people that renting our employees the housing will not have to worry about any of that. So you don't have
So
to
the
chase
dairy
it.
would be paying the rent, the utilities, and everything.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
That's the way I've always done it. Found that that's way better for the community.
Yeah.
And myself, I have a lot less problems. I don't have people that own a house coming out and looking for my employees to get the rent check, so. And I had the power to take out the check, so why
Where are you pulling the people to work at this dairy? Because we're always short of help at the hospital, we're always short of help at the schools, you're pulling teeth to find new teachers. Where are you gonna find these people that are willing?
not. We've been asked that question, and your local implement dealer actually gave me the answer. He said, you gotta pay him. So I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but we're gonna have to pay him. And we're doing a value-added product. So part of that value-added is we're gonna have to pay people. And so it may raise the wages in the county a little bit, but I'm gonna have to pay people. Battle's not really on the way anywhere. We're not close to Black Hills, we're not, I mean, we're close to the lake, and that's great, for people that are in the city. But it's a long way from the Walmart, it's a long way from the McDonald's. You know, amusement parks in Rapid City.
The cheese plant is trainable, specialized labor. We will be bringing in a cheesemaker, and they will be training for those positions, which could be anybody. But these positions are very lucrative salary-wise and hourly wage-wise because they are specialized. The dairy is going to be completely robotic. We've taken some of the milking equation out, where they're actually hands-on milking. There'll be very, very little of that. So these could be farm jobs. Somebody that doesn't want to move away, go to school, and not be able to come back. We're looking forward to trying to develop the farm employment and bringing those family kids back home and give them a job where they wanted to live to begin with, but had to move away because
We will need
it wasn't a
3 or
position.
4 high-tech, high mechanically inclined people that know electronics, no welding, no robotics. We will train, but I need somebody that's willing to dive into that stuff. Those will be high-paid positions, obviously, if we're counting. We have refrigeration on this dairy. There's no dairy refrigeration people pretty close to here. So I'm gonna have to try to do that. That will be a very high-paid position. Yeah, you're gonna have your normal livestock, your feeding people, your cleaning people. Baby calf feeding is gonna be automatic, but you gotta have people that watch that baby calf with the hawk. You know, there'll be vet bills, you know, veterinary services. So,
Do you use local vets or, because you obviously use AI at all the
Right.
cattle, so.
well, our main vet will be a local vet. We will have a consulting dairy vet because the local vet's a beef vet, basically, and dairy is a lot different. So yeah, I have a guy that I work with on a consulting basis, so they come out twice a year. But all the normal stuff, if we can't handle it on the dairy ourselves, the local vet will come out with.
One of the other things that we haven't mentioned, which we have mentioned when we've been here before, is the internship programs with the technical schools and the universities here. This is a great learning opportunity for students, and some of those will probably keep on. So again, it's important to have young people involved in agriculture or even the cheese making business. Look at what Brookings is doing at SDSU with when Bell Brands came in. Now you can learn how to make cheese while you're going to school. So there's a lot of opportunities for us, not necessarily to probably bring people in from other states. We can do that right here. but we're very, very aggressive on young people and recruiting that way. And education is the key there.
One thing, just one quick thing on the wages, you know, if the wages go up for, if some of you know, some of the people around here are employers, and they gotta pay more for help, hopefully that should be offset with, there's just more money around, there's more people spending money, you know. I mentioned this in the first, when we were here the first time, you know, an operation like this, the money changes hands 7 times. So there's a lot of money gonna be spent that hopefully the employers that are here now can afford to pay more wage too, and it's just more money circulating.
Well, I just, you know, this is a great conversation, great discussion. Sorry, I did dress up for today. Plowing snow just a little bit ago, but you know, the most important thing, and all these questions are great. The most important thing to me is the overall look of the economic development. Everybody's touched on it. I love all the questions you guys have had. We get one hearing, so I want to challenge you guys to dig deep and think of that issue that you have, because today's the day. I'm looking out in the audience, I see 2 families, 3 generations of individuals that are going to be living right there asking some phenomenal questions. Things that I've thought of, and if I can answer maybe just even a little bit differently. The workforce issue, you know, Mobridge, we lost a nursing home in the last year. That's 100 and some jobs we lost there. Shopco's closed, we lose another 20 to 50 jobs there. You know, we do need jobs in our area. And we're talking about bringing in a company that could, essentially, some of us are from Glenham, double the size of Glenham just in jobs and employment. And that doesn't even touch the other side of the economic benefits there. You know, Joe might go to work at the dairy plant, but Sally's going to go work at the nursing home, or Sally's going to go work at the school because there's now teaching opportunities. You know, these are all things that go through. We are also looking at a serious financial issue coming up as a county in the next year or 2 or probably decade when it comes to our roads. Things are not looking good out there, and it's nobody's fault to blame but Mother Nature. So we've got money issues there. So we can either raise the revenue by economic development or we can raise the revenue by taxation. And right now the agricultural community is in a pretty bad place, which throws me to another point. It's another cyclical thing that I thought of. Mobridge, South Dakota, Bowdle, South Dakota, Selby, we have the cheapest grain, some of the cheapest grain in the state of South Dakota because of our bases. The railroads sure do know how to charge. And if we want to take a look at economic development, what can come, you know, what comes to our area? We're agricultural based. The way the egg sector goes is the way we go in our area. We don't have any companies coming in to look to build a giant facility in Mobridge. We haven't had that since Walworth. We don't have anybody looking to come into Bowdle other than an elevator, which, by the way, is charging me 65 cents a bushel on a basis. Brings me back to the basis then. Not to mention the 36 cents in dockage, so we won't even go there. But these are things that really can kind of be addressed here. The road situation is something that does need to be evaluated. And I love that our county commissioners are asking the questions on the roads, because that's going to be probably their largest financial burden. And it's going to be these extra individuals, and we talked about it with truck hauling, hay hauling, these extra individuals that come to work that are that's the safety, that's their safety. That's what the road's going to be used for. I'm not necessarily, he mentioned it, Mr. Thomas mentioned it perfectly. Silage is coming in no matter what, yearlage, that's all coming in no matter what. They're not adding agricultural land anywhere. Traffic's there, it's going to be there. So that's not necessarily a worry, but the financial situation on the road is going to be an issue. But again, we are talking 4 miles? 4 miles. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I'm glad you guys are asking those questions, and I'm glad that you guys have a big grasp on it. But I also want to challenge you guys going forward, and there are programs, you guys have heard of the NECOG, the DOT, things like that, and those could be conditional use deals. You could say, we will grant you this permit on the condition that we receive financial assistance from the DOT or from NECOG or whatever that is for this road. In the event that were to fall through, you could just issue another conditional use permit. You're the commission, you can do what you see fit on your conditional uses. So I mean, if those are things that you guys want to look at, This permit's written by you, and it's unfortunate we don't have our attorney here today to be able to kind of dive through some of those. But when he gets here, we'll be able to really wean a lot of those out. I feel confident on those. My difficult question, and again, I want you guys to grill the commission, and I want you to grill the economic development that's coming in tonight, because again, this is our opportunity. So my big question for you is going to be the investment portion. We're talking about an $80 million project. Once the investor, have you received the financial backing? And if so, what happens in the event that something were to change, whether the DENR process says, we found some magic well that is full of spiritual water, or whatever they want to say. What happens in that process? What happens if this thing comes to a crashing halt for some reason? So that would be one of my tough questions. I think you guys have done a phenomenal job. I think you guys have done a phenomenal job. Probably one of the best run economic development situations I've seen in a while. But I want you guys to ask these tough questions, because this is our opportunity. We don't want it to come out later, well, why wasn't this addressed? Well, we're here now. We can't exactly put this back on the commission if they grant this permit, because we're here, we're supposed to ask the questions. And as a taxpayer that does in no way benefit from this dairy farm, that would be one of my big questions. This is what happens if something comes to a halt. What's the process?
And it's not so much the water, it's like you want non-GMO crops. I've seen my dad, I've seen Maurice chop kosher, because it cannot rain here at times. You can't just go down the road and get non-GMO crops.
That's right.
I mean, you're gonna have to go a long way to get it. Or sell cow. What are your plans there?
We got a lot of redundancy built into this, and if you can't feed corn size, and I've been in that boat. I mean, all of Nebraska is not irrigated. Where I dairy down by Beatrice, we could pump some out of the river, but it wasn't real easy. There will be, I mean, obviously we'll always have extra. You always plan, especially in this country and where I grew up in the Sand Hills, Nebraska, you always plan for drought. So you always have your 25% overrun, right? You don't go out and sell that 25% at the end of a wet year. At least nobody that's in their right mind will be the same way. So I can always go buy non-GMO corn elsewhere and truck it in. I can buy dry non-GMO hay, alfalfa. I can get that anywhere. So those two items I can bring in. Obviously the silage I can't. We'll have cereal, we're gonna have cover crops, at least on the Hoffman's ground, they're gonna raise cover crops. Those cover crops should provide us with some non-GMO feed. That will be, that's our backup plan, I guess. And also, there are gonna be pivots. Hoffman's already have some pivots, and they're planning on putting up a couple more. One neighbor, and maybe more than one neighbor, has said that they would be willing to put up some pivots. So,
Would you be a part of funding for those pivots to put up?
we're not planning on being,
The extra premium that we're paying for the non-GMO crop makes the payback on those pivots awful quick.
What is that number? I mean, I know what a pivot costs me, but you haven't given me a number on what, is it 2 cents a bushel more? Or
2 cents? Well, we wish we could do that at 2 cents. Traditional market out there
I mean,
is,
if it isn't enough to put the pivot up, then why put the pivot up?
no, there's a going rate,
There's a going
and it's
rate.
published out there on corn, what, it's now $1.80?
anywhere from $1.50 to $2 more on everything.
On a
So
bushel of corn.
that'll
And
give
so
you
you base that on hay. Alfalfa is not really much different because nobody is really doing but there's a lot of people that don't raise Roundup Ready alfalfa. Number one, I don't know any of you guys have raised it before, but I have. It's expensive to plant, and there's a yield drag, and if you manage your alfalfa field right, you don't need the Roundup Ready. So, I'm not gonna give much of a premium for non-GMO alfalfa. But all of the, anything corn-wise, we have to. You know, corn silage right now, I can buy it for 35 bucks a ton. Laid in my side off. We're gonna have to pay 45 to 50. So that's a big difference on an acre of ground.
That was a great question, though, because a different question had come up earlier.
And we do have connections with Lindsay Irrigation, and they have some financing programs that look really good right now. No interest, no payments for 16 months.
16 months.
So there, you know, you've already gotten a crop and a half off before you got.
Would you contract with people, a certain list of people for your crops?
Well, yeah, we'd have to have some sort of a lock-in. Yeah. And there's different ways to write contracts. Some people want them monthly, and we would base that off of the monthly form, you know, pick a day of the month, 5th of the month or whatever, so every 5th of the month, whatever the co-op's paying, we'll do that plus whatever the basis for non-GMO.
I'm just curious of what, like, Integra is gonna do, or Northern Plains is gonna do with all of a sudden we got 9,000 acres being taken out of here. What's that gonna do to the basis?
Maybe they.
Well, I hope it narrows your basis.
Well, that's what I'm wondering is, it'd be interesting to talk to Mike or somebody at the elevator
I don't think that's big enough acres.
Yeah, it's not a huge.
That's,
Not for their area.
Makes that much to make the rest go up.
yeah.
I mean, it might make them pucker a little bit. You know, 9,000 acres.
I'm just looking for Spencer's basis to get him.
Yeah.
to call him down.
Yeah, Spencer.
Well, they did mention that, I just talked to them actually, and they mentioned that because of the ethanol features, and the ethanol plants now in direct competition, especially in Iowa, that they have had to bring the basis, which I lied, I said 65, it was 65 last month, it's now 55 cents. But they have had to squeeze on their corn basis. You'll notice beans really haven't budged, that's still a solid $1, but if there's any way you can find a way to pump that through a dairy cow, I'd appreciate that. But yeah, so the competition has already forced them to lower the basis.
I guess I got a question, like what, I mean, there's no question, I mean, there's a lot of lumber and stuff that's gonna be used out there. I mean, where do you go to get that? I mean, do you do local, or do you go out of state, get somebody big, or, I guess that's one big thing I'd like to know.
The building will have very little lumber. It'll be all steel.
Well,
But, yeah, you're
I
right.
don't care what it is, I'm just saying.
I mean, there's Star Steel in Aberdeen, Star Buildings. Probably the outside skins will come out of Central States and Sioux Falls, or Hartford.
But you were talking about different housing, you know, just housing.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be housing lumber, obviously, yes. But, yeah, the buildings will be concrete and steel and tin on the outside.
You know, you said the milking facility, was that out of Nebraska, or where's that stuff all coming from?
Well, it's a robotic rotary, so it turns around. If you've seen rotaries for dairy cows, it turns in a circle, and with each cow, there's a robot. Now, those robotics come out of Germany. That's where they were designed. And, I mean, the company I work for sells those. The milk tanks that cool the milk, and also the company that makes the robots also makes a lot of stuff for the cheese plant, separators and that kind of stuff. So that's all United States built. The technology came from Germany, but it's built here in the United States because you can't ship that heavy stainless steel, and Trump put a little bit of a tariff on stuff. So we got to do. And then there'll be free stalls. They're all steel. Depending on which company, they'll either come out of China or they'll come out of the United States. But most all the companies you buy steel from anymore, it's coming coming out of China, almost all. That would be the main things. There'll be a lot of underground pipe for flushing. We're gonna flush this area, a lot of it. We're gonna use a lot of wheat straw, which I didn't mention in my report. So if anybody's got wheat straw, I'm gonna use a lot of wheat straw because we're gonna have a lot of baby calves that need bedding. We're gonna have fresh cows and cows calving that need bedding. So there's gonna be a lot of that around. So lumber for housing, that's a good deal. You know, those we won't have outside people. That won't be local builders doing all that.
Concrete will all be.
Concrete.
Be all.
I mean, we're working with the local concrete guys to set up a plant out there.
Dirt movers are local.
Dirt movers are local.
There's a lot of dirt to be moved.
Where the guys that are actually going to put the concrete, you know, pour the concrete, I don't know where those will come from. Whether the local guy's going to be big enough to handle this project, or we'll probably end up having to bring some outside people in for that. And the steel erectors are on the air, you know, very short time. Concrete boys will be here a long time. 35,000 yards of concrete takes a while
So the building site will only be about a quarter, about 160 acres.
Yeah.
Hey, one question I got, Kevin asked the last time we were in, how much of the actual products that are being purchased, whether it's the dairy equipment, metal buildings, the lumber, all that stuff is going to be taxable in the form of the rebate tax that was coming back to the state from the state of South Florida?
That would be a question for Spencer. Spencer, I think you had mentioned this once before when you guys were here last time.
I don't think I did, but I think it was there, and I'll answer for you.
Maybe
Yeah.
that was Kyle that made that presentation.
Your question, I'm sorry, was how much of it that's actually going to be. So if it's delivered, if they hired it delivered, then it's state sales tax. So if they buy it from XYZ company and they deliver it to in-state, that is supposed to be state sales tax. That's the Department of Revenue is who deals with that, not economic. I was just saying to him, we should have had Terwilliger bring somebody up here for us today. I totally spaced off, so I apologize. If they haul it in from out of state, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they take a semi, go out of state, load it up, bring it back in, then they would pay that sales tax.
Right. And I'm not a tax expert either, but let's say they go to Minnesota, buy it, purchase it there on their own truck and bring it home, there's no sales tax in Minnesota, they would pay sales tax in South Dakota. But if it was delivered, they would pay sales tax in South Dakota.
Who's their own truck? The developer?
The developer,
builder?
yes, I'm sorry.
I mean, that's pretty, we're not gonna own any trucks. Midwest Livestock does, but we're selling it to them. We deliver it to them on this site. That's all taxable, every bit of it. All the steel buildings, all the concrete, all the equipment we're putting in this place is taxable. Because our company doesn't own trucks. We're not gonna go to Germany and pick this stuff up.
But isn't some of it classified as ag? And the ag.
Now that, I think the cheese, some of the cheese plants, the livestock is, yeah.
But even some of the milking part, isn't some of that considered ag related?
Not
for sales.
Not the form I filled out. The form I filled out included all that, and that's what they.
I think the big one that is ag exempt is the cows. But for
That's
building-
correct. If it's livestock production, I believe that's exempt, but things like building materials won't be.
Now, the cheese plant was, am I right? Because we had to take some of that, I had originally figured all the cheese plant in there, but they told me that's a business.
Yeah, that is subject
So
to.
that's subject under economic development, that doesn't come back to you guys, is that right?
Correct.
So that's a difference.
Rotary, that's $8 million,
Yeah.
isn't that considered
That's all
ag?
comes back to you guys. And
The cheese building and the cheese enterprise was not eligible for the county rebate program.
Correct.
Only
Because it's
the
not
ag.
livestock development.
Correct.
So we had to set that apart from the cheese plant.
And so the cost of equipment is taxed at one rate. The labor and freight, no, cost of equipment and freight are at one rate. the labor and what the company actually makes on the project is taxed a bit different.
So from a tax standpoint, we're looking at two different things. We're looking at the dairy and the cheese plant. Those are two different entities through the tax rebate program. Because the reinvestment payment program for livestock is only for the dairy, not for the cheese plant.
your rebate still should be between 1.5 and 2 million or higher. I mean, obviously, we couldn't go get quotes before we did the rebate program. We can't do quotes off you guys say something. You know, I'm not gonna go out and waste 1,000 hours of time if I don't have a permit.
That's kind of like us, we need.
Yep, and you need it too.
To go get a survey done too.
Exactly, I mean, you're in the same boat. And I guess that's kind of,
I guess my deal is that, I agree with you, Spencer, but I think it's more than 4 miles of road that we gotta worry about.
I think you're right, I think it's closer to 7. And I think if you're going, you may as well go
Because you're gonna
south
have to
another
go
mile and go
farther
up
south, you're
47.
gonna have to go
You may as well
farther
just finish the
west.
trip.
oh, sure.
You know,
south
right.
a mile and 2 miles back to the west.
Yeah, may as well
So
make
you're
a
gonna-
loop,
You're gonna
Yeah,
have
why not?
but
probably closer to 10 miles.
you know, how much you actually need to do to the road, I guess that's gonna be, you know, like I said, I don't want weight limits on it at all. I mean, I don't want blacktop, because I don't want 6-ton load restrictions, I don't want none of that stuff.
Unless
You know,
unless it's state highway,
Yeah,
unless we
you
get
know,
to that point.
At times they're leaving post 47, you know, so that's gotta be, you know, they haven't done that for a while now, but, you know, that can get a little tricky too. Of course, they're gonna tear that highway up too, and
Yeah, they're
21
redoing
or
that one.
22 or whatever. But, like I said, you know, just make sure that it's wide enough and smooth enough and maintained often enough to where, you know, nobody's sliding in the ditch and, you know.
Guardrails for 4 miles.
Guardrails, no, well, get low.
I think, Gary, just to, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but let's just say, because they keep talking about road limits and weight limits, I mean, and stuff. But if, and we were talking to the state guys, let's just say that we would do it like to the state specs. There would be no limits on it, correct? If the road's built that way, they wouldn't have limits on it then. It'd be just like the state highway. I'm not saying.
Right.
Normal.
But
Legal limits.
4 miles of state blacktop would probably cost all of your grant and then some, and then some, and then some more of that. But, you know, I mean, I
I probably have to get it from you.
no, tapped out. A little short.
Anybody have anything else? Like Spencer said, now is the time. I guess the one thing, I'm just gonna bring it up right now, is that's got me, is to approve this permit with our state's attorney not here. I mean, we should be having a list like for the, it's obvious we got the condition of the road. We don't know with the road condition, so that would, to me, is huge. So that's why, how do we approve something if we don't have our state's attorney here to, that's my big question right now. What's the rest of you commissioners feel here?
I would make a motion that we table this until we can get the list of questions answered from the state's attorney and possibly even see when we could get a survey done on the road.
I guess I got a question to you. I'm not gonna forget about you, Kevin, here, but I got a question to you guys. Let's just say, I mean, let's say that we do that, we table that until we get them questions answered. What's this gonna do to your guys' progress right at the moment?
That's a good question. All the contractors that we've talked to so far are waiting to find out if there's going to be a permit issued to us or not because of the size of the project. They would be willing to push other smaller projects back in the year to do our work so they can at least get the dirt work done, some of the concrete done as soon as the weather allows. For us to get started on a project like this in July or June or August, we're not going to get them. They're going to be busy already because they can't have $3, $4, $5 million of equipment sitting around waiting for a job. And that's the chicken egg thing that we've got going on right now. The one thing that I might mention is that the conditional use permit still has to be determined on what terms you want to have in there. And it's unfortunate that you don't have counsel here today. Not saying that you'd probably make a decision today on it anyway, but at least you would have an opportunity to understand what some of the concerns are. The road is always going to be an issue. We're going to want some help with that. There's no doubt about that. We told you that right away. Not just for our benefit, but for the farm partners that we're going to be working with. Lord knows we've got some road repairs out there that need to be tended to right now. And I know budgets are thin. But in the same token, if this backs us up any substantial amount of months, it would create a hardship for us, there's no doubt about it.
If we put this until the 23rd of January, which would be our second meeting, would you foresee that being any undue lateness on that?
Dan, what do you think, Dan?
From our standpoint, probably, I mean, we're moving ahead anyway on the permit, so our part is probably not gonna be so, but it's more lining up contractors, more lining up purchase agreements.
It would just give us a couple of weeks to get some counseling and get with NECOG and everybody else to get some of the answers that we need. If we made a decision on the 23rd.
Why don't you think we can do it the first meeting?
I don't think we'll have enough time to do it. First meeting is going to be, what, the 7th. That's only a week away.
We can do it we want to do a special meeting.
If you came up with your list of questions and got them to your council, and you could research them before your first meeting in January, maybe you would have all the answers.
Hopefully we could.
I would just shoot for the first meeting.
If you think we can get it.
I think we can.
We would prefer that, but we know what you're dealing with there. So.
And we can't apply for our state permit until you guys approve that too, which we're not quite ready to apply for our state permit, but we will be shortly. The main one's the contract.
Gary, do you think you could get somebody, just to see if you could get somebody lined up and what it might cost by the 7th?
Yes.
I think let's shoot for that. I would just assume get moving forward.
Well, I'll make that motion and put the first meeting in.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor to get this all done by the first meeting. I need a second.
The motion was to table until the first meeting in January.
Correct.
That's your motion.
Yeah.
Yep.
I need a second.
I'll second
Yeah, second. Any more discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passes. All right.
Thank you.
We'll try best we can to get all the questions.
It's kind of a chicken egg thing.
Pardon me?
Kind of a chicken egg thing. Hard to get all, I mean, for us to bring an economic deal into you guys, and you guys can't go to the state with your deal until we bring something to you. That's kind of a long, I think you're doing it the right place.
All right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having us again.
We'll take a 5-minute break. Number 9, old business. New business? Here none, okay, then a motion on the floor, I need a second. A second. Any more discussion? Here none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion passed. Let's convene as a Board of County Commissioners. Approval of the agenda. I gotta add 2 things. Authorize publishing budget supplement and add transfer of cash from POD fund. Need a motion for that to add?
So moved.
Okay, got it. Is there anything else to add? Hearing none. Only a second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Public forum. Is there anybody?
Hello, to Joseph.
Okay.
Thank you. I guess my first question is, what do we have the official county website for?
What do you mean?
Well, what do we use it for? The meeting today was not even put on the official county website.
I can't answer that.
The courthouse was not open yesterday due to a blizzard. If nobody could get to work, who do you expect was gonna put it on there? It was on the radio, it was notified to the newspapers, it was put on Facebook. How did you expect it to get on there?
Okay, then my next question would be, how did it get put on there in the first place, since the courthouse was not open for the meeting? It was put on Sunday. So who put it on Sunday if the courthouse wasn't open on Sunday for the meeting on Monday?
First of all, I don't think it matters who put it on there, but there was no travel advised at that time. Yesterday, when the courthouse was closed, it was first postponed till 10. And then they decided to close the courthouse.
Okay, I'm addressing my question to Mr. Schilling.
Mr. Schilling doesn't do the website. I do.
All right, so how was it put on the website on Sunday
I
if
put
the
it on
courthouse was closed?
I put it on there.
And you came to the courthouse and put it on?
Yeah. Does that matter where I put it on?
No,
I guess I don't understand the question. The bottom line was when the meeting was postponed, I was at home and I was not able to get out of my home to get to the courthouse. In fact, I had a child that was throwing up all day. So if you would like the commissioners to appoint a backup to who can add stuff to the website, I'll be more than happy to pass off some of those duties.
Linda, could you just move on? I mean, I guess I'm not real understanding what this has really to do with anything. It didn't go on there. We weren't open, so I guess I'm not understanding what you're getting at. I would ask you again to please move on.
Why don't you want any public participation? You guys act like this is a secret meeting place. You don't want to put the agenda on ahead of time.
It is no secret meeting.
I'm saying you act like it is. You don't put the agenda on early enough for people to even have a chance to contact commissioners if they so choose. You publish it Monday morning. Why can't it be put on Friday at the end of the workday?
Statute states that it has to be put out 24 hours prior to the meeting.
Within 24 hours. I don't think it says you cannot publish it before 24 hours.
But that's when it's complete.
You make changes to the agenda at every meeting we have. Why can't you publish it on Friday so people have a chance to see it, and if they have questions, they could call commissioners, they could contact their commissioners.
A lot of stuff isn't even in yet. Some of the bills and stuff ain't even in, so that nothing's all finished yet.
The bills are not on the agenda, it's just the plain.
I'm just using that for an example.
Mr. Byrie, when do you normally send your agenda items? Monday mornings, a lot of times, am I correct?
There's been times up till 9 o'clock on the Monday before.
Thank you.
Is there a problem adding that to the agenda then? I guess I don't understand why, this is supposed to be an open and transparent government, and in my opinion, it's not. And that's why I'm here voicing my opinion on that.
Go talk to the state, because they're the ones that said we can do it up to here. So I don't see what the thing is here, which you're.
That you don't have to put the agenda on until 24 hours in advance, saying that you can't put it on earlier if you want to?
What if we're choosing not to? I mean, it's just that we want everything on the agenda at once, so why not do it at once when our time limit is? Yes, Becky.
We had a previous meeting that when the bottom of the public forum portion of the agenda was changed, Mr. Hare stated that if you had one that said 5 minutes, we had to follow that. So why would I go and post a not complete agenda prior to that 24-hour time frame? Because then you could go print that out, just like that happened, that time it happened, and he can say, well, if she's got a copy of it, then we gotta follow it. Because I believe he was incorrect when he stated that.
I believe he was not incorrect because it was on the official county website.
Right, so
That's
now
where I
you're telling
printed
me
it
that you
from.
want me to post an agenda on Friday,
move
which
on.
could
I got
completely
places to go
change
those days
by
to get
Monday
back.
morning.
We're gonna just sit
And then
here
we'd
and
have
argue all the
to
time.
follow that
I'm just
because
gonna-
it was posted on the official county website. That makes absolutely zero sense.
Let's move on.
I'm just not understanding really where you're going with this.
No, I guess if you don't understand that, I guess I don't have to continue to speak. Thank you.
I, as the auditor, am following statute by posting it 24 hours beforehand. I'm following the laws. If you would like it posted before that, then, I mean, you know how you accomplish that.
Well, the meeting was posted 24 hours in advance for the meeting for yesterday. There wasn't even a notice on there that the meeting today was at 1 o'clock. And I heard that one of the commissioners came to the meeting yesterday at 1 o'clock. I'd say there was some derelict in duty of somebody that didn't notify a county commissioner
move on.
to come to a
You
meeting
sent
at
out
1
that-
o'clock.
You
Move
sent
on.
out that text.
Myself,
Amanda
Amanda.
sent out the text stating that the meeting was postponed. That goes to every county employee, including commissioners. I'm not sure why they didn't get the text. Amanda's not gonna call every single person after she sends out a countywide text saying, did you get the text?
I haven't addressed any of my questions to you, so I don't know why you're so upset with me. I was addressing my questions to the chairperson.
I can't answer them all
He
the
can't
time.
answer them because I'm the one who does that part of it.
I know, but
So
Ms.
you wanted
Hobart
to
said,
say, I
let's
don't
move
know.
on, and we're still continuing this discussion. I just think it's terrible that a county commissioner couldn't have gotten a phone call. There's only 5 of you. I'm not saying it was the auditor's job to do it. What's wrong with the chairperson calling a commissioner and say, hey, the meeting has been changed?
I'm gonna answer that question real quick, and then I'm gonna tell you we're gonna move on. I do have another job. Anybody that's a commissioner, I don't believe, is that they don't have a job. If you think that I can just sit on that phone, then if I come up next time, do not vote for me. I don't care if you put that in the paper, but I'm gonna tell you right now, lady, I've got other things to do in my life. I cannot make every phone call. I can't. If Jim didn't get that text, he had already told me, that's exactly who it is, that he probably wasn't gonna have service when I did talk to him in between moving snow. So I'm gonna tell you, I cannot call him every second. I can't. And now we're gonna move on. That I can tell you.
Okay.
Go to 15. Consider motion to approve county commission minutes of December 17th, 2019.
So move.
Okay, got a motion on the floor. I need a second.
I'll second.
Got a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passed. 16. Consider motion to approve claims to be paid as presented. Does everybody have a chance to go over them?
Mr. Chairman, may I have a copy of that?
Here, here's an extra copy here.
You want to go over them, Gary?
Those are the ones that you requested.
I just wanted to make, is it in here?
Yes.
Okay.
If everybody's have a chance, I'd take a motion.
So move.
Okay, got a motion on the floor. I need a second.
I'll second.
Got a second. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passes. Gary?
Name on there?
If you have an extra, I'll just lay it.
There's a copy of the sales agreement for that dozer. The process on the dozer was we tabled the award, if you remember right. Given me time to review. I reviewed the bids and determined the dozer that was handed to you in the sales agreement was the unit that was the best. The asking price from the vendor was $126,000, excuse me. And it had a rear-mounted winch on it. We deducted $8,000 from the 126, and it got to a purchase price of $118. And I polled the commission by telephone. Mr. Holgard was the only one that didn't contact, and the commissioners all agreed with my choice. And the unit was delivered on the 26th to ensure that the unit was on the grounds and we could make purchase in fiscal year 2019. The intent there was that with some budget remaining, we could conserve the 2020 budget by purchasing that dozer unit in 2019. In my determination, it was all compliant. Any questions?
I think you're gonna get to use it real soon.
Real soon. We kind of want to go through the oils. We're doing some scheduled oil sampling of it in case there's any particle counts in the components that are bad. We wouldn't even put it into production and surplus it right away, but I think it's a pretty good unit and it should give us some life.
What do they have, like a little bit of a warranty on that?
No warranty at all.
Nothing at all?
Nope.
30 days
Nope.
or 60?
Nope. We did set a equipment rate on it. We set it up for a 10-year period for the depreciation. And we set a rate of $50, and that's in case we use it between now and the first meeting in January when you people set the rates. As I explained before, that the first meeting of the fiscal year, the highway department's superintendent's obligation is to bring the cost analysis to the county commissioners to get approval for equipment rates. So we have no history of use in the dozer, so it's set for $50 now and will be revisited first meeting in January. Do you have any other questions?
I was curious, I've had a few phone calls on how the snow removal is coming from this last snow.
My hope is that we can get everybody opened up to the point where we don't have to work on New Year's Day, but we'll be back into operations Thursday morning. And I want to say that I'm reasonably confident everybody will get opened up to where we don't have to work on New Year's. If something comes up, we work, but it's kind of scheduled that we're not planning on working tomorrow. That dozer unit I'm witnessing, and you've probably been driving around, that in the business it's called snow load capacity. Snow load capacity is based on back slopes, road ditch depths, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of places where the ditches are full of snow. There's 4-foot snow drifts alongside the road. meaning the snow load capacity is gone. And now the dozer unit, when I'm comfortable with putting it in operation, we'll get in there and start dozing it out. So I'm really kind of glad we got it in the fleet. We just need a little bit more time in determining, are we comfortable enough that the unit won't fail? And hope it doesn't fail. But snow ridging, that unit will be out on private property, putting up them ridges out in the field to block the wind. A good thing about a low ground pressure dozer unit like that is that I'm reasonably confident that in the ag land side, with the vegetative cover remaining from soybean harvest, that the ground probably isn't froze. And we normally would do that with a road grader and a wing and a V-plow, put ridges, but this dozer unit is going to be key in getting us out there. Once we get the snow off, the ground will freeze and the graders can take over from there. So,
Are you projecting any need for a blower?
no. I think I commented earlier that dozer unit is the way to go. You get it out of there, you put up that bank of snow there that protects the wind from blowing through it. I want to say you'll be comfortable in the performance. So
Overall, just looking at the machine, it seemed like it was a good deal.
I think so. It's a $118,000 unit compared to 340,000. I'm comfortable.
I guess I got a question, Gary. What is gonna happen with that old snowblower down there?
I wish somebody could clarify, it was listed at surplus at one time, but never sold, right?
Never sold. That's the reason why I just had a phone call about it.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that it was sold and somebody didn't pick it up.
It never went through this office that was ever declared.
So my opinion, since I wasn't here, if it was formally listed as surplus, I think it would be a luxury to the general public that we list it again as surplus and accept sealed bids on it.
I would think now would be the time.
Yes. We don't have legal counsel here today, but I'm thinking about the public interest. It was surplus. Can anybody tell me? 2019, 2018?
We talked about it, that's all we did.
So I would,
Should get surplus, and then it was never, Penny said she was gonna,
I'm going to go to the next meeting to surplus it.
she was talking about it, but that's all it further went.
and it's not hurting anybody by staying, so I would make sure we have it on the agenda that, list that unit as surplus property for like the first meeting and second meeting in January, so.
Okay. Anything else, Gary?
You have a copy of a letter that was sent in lieu of that payout comp time hours at the highway department. That's for your information. That was a letter that was drafted, a signature form. Verbally, I don't have all the signatures back. I think there's a couple of them that are out yet. But I'm of the opinion that the vouchers have been made to pay off the comp time.
The comp time was paid out in the final paychecks, which was Friday.
Okay? And you have a report on the building demolitions in Java. The amount of tons hauled out, there was some white goods. The total cost of the operation, I think you have to add JB1 and JB2 together. And that will give you the cost of demolition and removal. I'm not demanding it, but will that money come back to the highway department for operations next year in 201 account? Or will it be an absorbed expense in the highway department?
Can we figure that out?
It's gonna be a decision by you guys.
Well, we need to talk to Jamie about it.
Yeah.
I think we could, we'll bring it up at the next meeting with Jamie here.
So if it was time and money spent in 2019, can you take action like that in 2020?
To supplement your budget for it?
I'm not really looking at a supplement.
No, we would
I'm
just be
looking at
transferring funds.
Transfer from,
General fund to the road and bridge fund, which would just need a motion, and the board would have to approve.
okay? That's it for me?
Do you need a motion on signing that agreement for the dozer?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll take a motion for that, sign that.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, got a motion on the floor, I need a second.
I'll second.
Got a second, any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passed.
Becky, you can keep the original and give us a copy? Or vice versa?
I don't have it. Okay. Okay.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Let's do the PUD first.
Okay, transfer of cash from POD fund.
That was our expenses this year.
$746.06 transfer to 426.
It's gonna be 101, 222, 426, that's where we paid the expenses out of, but it was for the POD, and it came out of the emergency management budget, because that's the only place we had funds budgeted to be able to pay it out of, but then we'll just do a transfer of cash from the POD fund to, it's gonna be the general fund, but it's gonna go into the 101, 222, 426.
I'll need a motion for that.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion on the floor, I need a second.
I'll second it.
Got a second, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passed.
Just read it. Well, we can go through what the contingency transfers are gonna need to be. We actually did not have enough funds to cover everything, due to court-appointed attorney. We overspent that budget by $100,598, with a total of $195,598 spent. Our vet service officer, we did have a turnover in that office, so things were a little different than normal. We overspent that budget by $300.62. Coroner was overspent by $8,490.47 for a total of $17,435.47 expense, and that was due to more unattended deaths than anticipated. Supportive Corps was overspent by $6,977.38, and I believe that was for settlements that we had with Avera. Mentally ill was overspent by $8,686.03. We had a very big increase in those expenses. Developmentally disabled, we ended up with another patient being cared for. So that was overspent by $712. Mental illness board, of course, increased due to the amount of people we had there. And so that was overspent by $6,473.70. Those issues we have addressed in the budget next year, because we put quite an increase in those funds. Extension was overspent by $10,093.59. It was mainly salary, so I'm gonna do some looking and see if maybe the secretary had more hours than anticipated in that department, or if the budgeting to begin with was not done correctly, considering Sherry's half here and half at Campbell County. As far as I knew, they budgeted for all of Sherry's salary, and then whatever Brenda needed, but when we did it, that was the understanding. But for some reason, it was overspent by $10,093.59. So I talked to Rod Fortin this morning with legislative audit, and also the landfill fund was overspent by $55,367.01. But that was due to the $86,000 that we just wrote to the contractor, that we are anticipating getting funds back on that, but it won't be till next year because we're still in the process with FEMA. So we will do the transfer of the $125,000 we had available for contingency to all the budgets. The one that will not have enough funds is going to be court-appointed attorney. And after talking with legislative audit, he told me that it would probably be our best interest just to go ahead and do a formal supplement, advertise it for 10 days, and have the motion made on January 23rd. Normally, the business should be done in the same year. However, we are out of time for that. And he said that it's better to still do it, even though it's just going to be like 2 weeks late or 3 weeks late. So that's what we're going to do if you guys authorize publishing the notice of supplement.
For exactly 125?
No.
No?
No, the notice of supplement, my calculations downstairs, and this calculator hates me, but it was, I wasn't planning on moving up here. Anybody have a different calculator? Yeah, can I use your phone? This calculator is not working. And I don't have mine up here. Thank you. Hope you don't need these numbers, they're gone now.
No. It's over by a lot.
With that pod transfer changes things. it looks like it's gonna be $18,543.28 that will be supplementing to court-appointed attorney from general fund cash. And then the landfill repairs and maintenance will be $55,367.01. And that's gonna come from the landfill cash. That's after transferring the BOD funds.
We're gonna do them separately, don't we?
No, the notice of hearing I have is for both. I prepared it for both. So, yeah, I need a motion for the contingency transfers and a motion for the budget supplement advertising.
What's the first one? I'll make a motion to approve the contingency fund.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Got a second. Is there any more discussion on that? Yes.
I guess I just wanted to point out that everybody did a great job with their budgets this year. Mainly the only expenses we went over, or the budgets we went over, are things we can't really have an exact budget for because our mental illness went up, our court-appointed attorneys. And basically, that's about all it was.
Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passed. Okay, we gotta do the advertise for authorized publishing budget supplement.
I'll make a motion to authorize the publishing of the budget supplement.
Okay, got a motion on the floor. I need a second.
I'll second it.
You got a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passed. Is that it, Becky? Any old business? New business?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, got a motion on the floor. I need a second. Got a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.